Well, hello everyone. I'm Marianne Donnelly from Dark Shadow Ghost Tours, PanicD.com, and Our Haunted Travels. Today, I'm here with a miniature version of Robert the Doll. The real Robert the Doll is over 3 feet tall. He's a little shorter. Anyways, today what I'm going to talk to you about is a little bit about the history of Robert the Doll and how people go to pay him respects.
Our Haunted Travels with your hosts, Sean and Marianne Donnelly.
On July 17th and 18th of 2016, we traveled to the Key West, Florida and Fort East Martello to pay our respects to the infamous Robert the Doll. There are many videos out there on YouTube, as well as books, TV shows, etc., that document the history of Robert, but we're just going to cover the basics here. Robert was a gift to a little boy named Robert Eugene Otto when he was a young boy. In fact, when he received the doll, he was about the same size as Robert, and the sailor uniform that you see Robert wearing today, it used to be jeans. It was not uncommon in those days for little boys to receive dolls as gifts, and Robert became a very close friend to Gene. In fact, once Gene names the doll Robert, he insisted that he should be called Gene from there on in. Any time that Gene would get in trouble, he would always say he didn't do it. In fact, that Robert did it. His parents would often hear him in his room at night having long conversations with the doll and playing with him, but they just figured it was a young child playing with his toy. Legend has it that the doll was a gift from a nurse who was mistreated, and she placed a curse on the doll. Some also say that it was a gift from his grandmother. Either way, the relationship between the child and the doll was extremely close. When Gene got older, he moved to New York, where he met his wife, a concert hall pianist. When Gene moved away, he left Robert back with his parents in Key West. The couple lived in New York for some time until Gene's father became ill, and then they moved back to Key West and back into the artist's house. Once living back in Key West, the strange relationship began again. Robert would often neglect his wife and spend several hours with Robert. He even built him a small house and several other things in the attic where Robert lived. And when things started to happen around Gene again, he began to say, "Wasn't me, Robert did it." Again, you can find out more detailed information about the story of Robert and Gene, but what happened to Robert after the death of Gene? Well, Robert was again left in the attic of the artist's house. After the new owners took over, they began to report several strange occurrences happening within the house. Neighbors would sometimes ask who the little boy was that was dressed in a cute sailor suit looking down at them from the attic window. Well, let's skip ahead even more. Robert finally wound up at the Fort East Martello Museum, where visitors can come and pay their respects. And that's exactly what we did. Twice, actually. Once during the nighttime ghost tour, and the next day during the day. One thing we have to warn you. You need to ask Robert for permission to take his picture before you do. If you don't, you might be cursed. In fact, here's a story we experienced on the second day when we went back to visit Robert. As I mentioned before, if you make fun of Robert or take his picture without permission, it's believed that Robert will curse you or in some kind of way put some bad juju on you. There are many, many, many visitors who actually believe in this, and in fact, Robert receives sometimes 3 to 5 apology letters a day asking for forgiveness from the curse. We were aware of this when we visited Robert last summer, but before we took our pictures, we did ask for permission, and we were very respectful. I actually left him a little loving message from Dark Shadow Ghost Tours, Panic D, and Sean and myself, and we wished him well. Now, as with pretty much any museum that you visit, you'll always leave through, that's right, the gift shop. Well, we were getting ready to leave, but of course we were looking around at different items that we were going to purchase, and Sean went up to the counter and started talking with a couple that was there waiting for something. It turns out that they were there to stop to see Robert again by their daughter. They were there waiting for her to come out of the museum, where she was spending a little time with Robert herself. Here's the full story of how they reported it to Sean. In 2015, we were down here on a family trip. Our daughter was going to be a senior in high school, and it would probably be the last trip that we could make as an entire family before our oldest went off to college. Well, the kids wanted to stop and see Robert the Doll. They'd always heard about him and thought it would be fun to stop, since we drove by the museum anyways on our trip. Well, when we stopped, our second oldest kind of got a little rude with Robert and was making fun of him and teasing the others. She was making faces at him and saying how the legend was just a big joke, etc. When they got back home is when their bad luck started. A week after we got home, she was out jogging, tripped, and fell. She thought she just sprained her ankle, but it did much more worse damage, and pretty much she couldn't participate in any sports her whole senior year. Next, right after school, her and one of her friends were in a car accident. Neither one got hurt, but she did lose her license, and they pretty much couldn't drive to school each day again for their entire senior year. And they both had to ride the school bus as seniors. 1 month into school, her and her boyfriend had a huge falling out and broke up. And they were dating since junior high school, but their relationship was now over, and for the first time, she began to struggle with her schoolwork. So this year, before she left for college, she demanded that we bring her back down here to see Robert so she could apologize in person for being so rude to him before during their last visit. She was there talking with Robert while they were telling the story to Sean and I. Have you been down to pay your respects to Robert? Or have you heard of any others' misfortunes who didn't get permission from Robert before taking his picture? If so, please leave a comment in the comments below. And as always, happy hunting and thanks for watching.
If you like this video and like to see more in the future, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and give us a like below. Also, if you have any comments or suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comment section. Thanks for watching this episode of Our Haunted Travels.